Afghanistan is in the grip of a humanitarian disaster and in the midst of a famine. The crisis has been made worse by sub-zero temperatures in recent weeks. According to the UN, 23 million people, more than half of Afghanistan's population, are threatened by hunger this winter and in urgent need of assistance. Some food aid has started arriving in Kabul, but much international aid was cut when the Taliban took power last August. Scarcity of food means many children are now malnourished and children's medical wards are filling up. This next report is from the Indira Gandhi Hospital in Kabul.
For weeks, Hadia had nothing to eat. Her mother could no longer breastfeed her and the family couldn't afford to buy milk. 14 days ago, they brought her to this hospital in Kabul. She was much worse before. Here she's fed milk every hour and she can keep it down. The family's situation has severely deteriorated in the past few months. Prices have skyrocketed. I have 3 sons and a daughter. We were able to buy food, but recent developments have hit us massively, especially the devaluation of the currency and inflation. I'm a widow and live in someone else's apartment. Nurse Sakina Yusufi would normally look after 5 patients. Now she has over 20. The number of people currently seeking hospital treatment far outstrips capacity. More and more of the children we see here are malnourished. We need more medicine, more space, more staff and other resources for the many patients. Recently, the International Red Cross has been supporting the hospital with financial aid and medicines. Satara comes from a suburb of Kabul and brought her son to the children's ward. My husband is a teacher. He's not been paid for the last 3 or 4 months. I sold a ring so I could bring my son here for treatment. The family can only afford tea and bread to eat. Often there's not enough money for gas, for heating or cooking. They say my husband will receive his salary, but I don't know if that will happen. Last week they announced they would pay, and they still haven't. Satara has the equivalent of just under 20 euros left from the sale of her ring. She doesn't know how she'll get by after that. We can only keep the children here for a maximum of 2 months. We can't keep them any longer because we have to make room for other children. People come to us from all over the country. The children only go home once they're well enough, but often they're back within a few months when their parents have no more food left to give them.
World Food Programme Executive Director David Beasley has been working in Afghanistan to distribute aid. DW's Julia Saudelli had a chance to speak to him here in Berlin about his work.
Mr. Beasley, could you give us a picture of the humanitarian emergency unfolding right now in Afghanistan?
Afghanistan was already one of the poorest countries in the world with 20 years at least of conflict with the Taliban, and now what we're facing is catastrophic. The number of people that literally are knocking on starvation's door is 23 million people out of 40 million people. It is horrific. In fact, I've been there several times. I've been meeting with families, mothers and fathers. In fact, one mother was telling me how she had to sell her daughter to get food for her family in the hopes that her daughter could be well fed by another family. And so mothers and families are having to choose because they have no money. If they do have any money, do I buy cooking oil to feed my children, or do I buy heating oil to keep my children from freezing to death? This is how horrific it is in Afghanistan right now.
What kind of difficulties are you encountering in delivering food to the people in need there?
We've been operating in Afghanistan before the Taliban took over, and quite frankly, it's been quite remarkable the access that we have. The Taliban I have met with, our teams have met with out in the provinces as well as in Kabul, and they have assured us, allowing us to operate impartially, independently, neutrally, and they've honored that. We've been able to operate and do what we need to do to reach the innocent victims of this conflict. If we get the money that we need, and that's our biggest limitation right now, we can reach the Afghan people without anyone, including the Taliban, interfering with our operations, and that's extremely important for us.
But is a humanitarian effort enough? Sanctions and asset freezes have been applied to the Taliban since they came into government, and they're hitting the economy in Afghanistan hard. Should these measures be reconsidered?
So the long-term solution is not humanitarian aid. The long-term solution is going to be the international community figuring a path forward so that Afghanistan can revitalize its economy and move on with its life, because we've got so many crises right now around the world. Because if we don't have enough money worldwide, where am I going to get the money to feed all the children in Afghanistan? Am I going to take it from the children in Syria, the children in Ethiopia, the children in Niger or Mali? So this is a very serious issue, and the leaders around the world have got to really sit down and find a pragmatic way forward. Otherwise, it's going to be catastrophic.
As you've said, there's urgent need for funding, not only for Afghanistan, but also for other emergencies around the world, like Yemen and Syria. You have many times appealed to the leaders and the millionaires of the world for funding. What has the response been so far?
During this COVID experience, the world's billionaires have made unprecedented money. Over $5.2 billion of net worth increase per day. All we need is 1 day's worth of their net worth increase to really address our short-term crisis. Is that too much to ask? I don't think so, because the world needs the world's billionaires who profited during COVID to help the world's poor.
David Beasley, Executive Director of the World Food Program, thank you.
Thank you.